A real-life comedy podcast designed to lighten you up, make you laugh, and get you off your ass. Now that's Kristen being Kristen. Are you freaking kidding me? Start the show!
What's up, everyone? It is Kristen being Kristen, also Kristen Hutchison. Thank you so much for joining me. This is episode 5 of Chicken in the Bag podcast. So like I like to say, every week we have on somebody different to have a conversation with. We throw a bunch of stuff in the pot, lots of different topics, and see what comes up. But today we're not stirring up in the pot. We're going to chop it up with my friend Jason Derouen, and he's also known as the Cajun Ninja. So we're going to get him in here and get started with the show. Boom. What's up, Jason?
Hey, how you doing?
How are you?
Great. It's
great to have you here.
Awesome. Well, I'm trying to share your stuff here so people can watch. So forgive me.
There's no worries about that, my friend. Get people in here, that's great, because they can comment with us and share with us today. If not, they can check it out on the replay. So whatever works for you is great. I'm just going to tell people about you a little bit, why you try to get people in here. So Jason, you originally worked in the oil industry. You got a layoff, decided to do some cooking. Your video went viral of you making gumbo, and that started a whole new world for you, which I think is so super cool. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, your family life, a little bit of everything in your content creating, because I think you're just a fun guy that has a lot of different things that you're doing. You got a new product line out, so we're going to get into all that throughout the show. So Jason, you're out of Louisiana, born and raised?
Correct. I was born in Thibodeau, raised in Houma, and then also spent several years in Lafayette. So I'm very familiar with the southern regions of Louisiana.
Okay, so now were you always someone that was in the kitchen with like your mom or your grandmother? Like, where did you learn to make gumbo? Or do you always someone that just played around with it, or how did that all start for you?
Yeah, so my mom is a great cook, and that's kind of what I remember as far as cooking. She's done it for a long time, but she's not one to really sit down and really explain it to you. There are people who like want to be teachers, and there's people who just want to do it, and she's that lady, she's really good at her craft, and never got around to really telling me how to do things or a step-by-step process, will you? She sometimes walked me through some things on the phone, but for the most part it was like, all right, because every time I'd ask her, she would go, let me just make it for you. And the next thing I know, she's bringing over corn soup.
Right.
So now, I mean, through several years of me just researching stuff, it came about, and I'm real happy with what I've put together in the last 4 years.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So now what was it about your gumbo video back in 2016 that you think why you went viral? Like, what was it? Was it just your personality, or maybe the way you cook? Like, what do you think was the secret sauce?
I mean, it was the perfect storm, because just as many people loved it and hated it.
Like, that's not how you make gumbo. What the hell are you doing?
That's exactly it. I mean, for what it's worth, everybody has kind of an opinion on how to do it. And, whenever they got in the comment section and started talking to each other, it rattled off some views. And from there, I kind of ran with it. You and I both kind of come from the same, background of where we got started, or who motivated us on social media. Mm-hmm. And, it was Gary Vaynerchuk, and his whole thing was to just center content around what you enjoy. And I love to entertain people. I love to make people laugh. I just, that's kind of my thing. Even when I started the page, I had no intentions of cooking. I just wanted to do things that were fun, for people that would watch it. But, like Gary said, center things around what you love. I love to entertain, but I also enjoy other things. I enjoy my passions, martial arts. I'm a family man. I love to cook. And he said, whatever thing hits, double down on it. And it just happened that cooking was the thing. So I'll say, well, I'll run with it.
I love that. So I agree with you. I'm the same. I love that when you said the comments started like a whole dialogue. And that's one of the things I'm trying to do with this show weekly is, just bring on cool conversation with different people. Let some things mix up a little bit. It might get a little bit dicey, and maybe you have a difference of opinion, but you can find a way to kind of, be like, oh, that's pretty cool. I never thought of that. That's pretty interesting. Oh, I never thought of doing my gumbo that way. So you probably did start some thoughts and conversations. Obviously, you're sharing work because there's a lot of people in here tonight, so that's pretty fun.
Oh, yeah. Oh, good. Well,
Yeah,
welcome, guys. Thank you guys for coming and watch this.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us and partaking in the conversations. Here's someone's like Paella. So Damien Rogers is in here. So thank you, Damien, for hanging out and watching with us today and hearing a little bit more of your backstory. So I love the fact that you like to make people laugh. That's something I like to do too. I think that you and I both share a very similar personality. We're both family people. We're both people that like to kind of make people laugh and have a good time. I think we both make content that is trying to kind of, lift people's spirits. It's been a really heavy year. So I think the more positive people that we can kind of showcase, it helps. Anything that makes people get a break from the news cycle is very helpful in 2020 and now 2021. So I think that's really great. I love the fact that you have a martial arts background. I'm obsessed with martial arts. How did that start for you, and how old were you when that kind of started?
Okay, so it's funny, right? Because like the cooking side kind of come from my mom, but like the martial arts side came from my dad.
Okay.
Like he had got into a Taekwondo school when he was like 16.
Okay.
And did it till he was like 21. And the master he came up under, this Asian guy from Korea who kind of started South Louisiana, one of the founders of South Louisiana Taekwondo down here. He ended up branching off with other students who started other schools. And today my partner, his name's Al Abear, we opened a school down here called Home of Martial Arts. And, it was just several years of training and putting the work in to ultimately get to where I am today. Which is a part owner of a school. I just recently tested for my master's certification, and that's all accumulated over the course of 30 years. I have a deeply rooted passion for martial arts, and not just for the kicking and punching aspect. I love the humility. I love the camaraderie, learning how to be confident, respectful, just all the things that being a true martial artist embodies.
So I love that because that was an overnight success, 30 years. That's what I love. Everybody always thinks that everything's like right now. So I love the fact that I think the thing to master something, something like martial arts, there's so many different styles of it. And I love what you were talking about. It's about mindset. It's about humility. It's about camaraderie. It's all those things that really are so important for people to learn. And I think, I can't think of the actual quote by Bruce Lee, but there's something about, doing something and like mastering it. Like, if you can master your mind, you can kind of master anything. And I think there's such a skill set that comes with that. And I love that you teach that. What is one of the things that you love about teaching young people martial arts? Like, they're.
I mean, it's just that they're a blank page, and like the word art is in martial arts, right? So
right.
You're given an opportunity to paint a picture here, and then just kind of watch it happen. It's like you throw a couple strokes in there and it just starts to happen. It starts to blossom. I like too the fact that I'm largely responsible for planting seeds in them of being contributing members of society.
Correct.
And that's a big deal to me is that, I want the kids that come to me to learn and know that you have to work for it. No matter what it is you do, you have to put work in. Sure, there are people who get lucky in life, but they're far and few between the people who actually worked for their success.
Exactly.
And I enjoy that so much. It's a day-by-day process. I look at it as though putting tiny deposits into a small interest fund,
Oh, I love that. That's a great way to say it. And I also think that I think there's something about that training that helps you in other things in life. You know what I mean? Like it helps you can kind of, build up that confidence and that inner strength that you need to kind of like life is tough. And that's one of the things that I think that we don't talk enough about. And I think that a lot of young people that came up through you really found some skill sets in I don't, do we call it a dojo? I don't know. What do we call it? What do we call your?
Well, I call it a dojo, but
yeah, that's what my friend calls it. So I wasn't sure if I'm using the right term.
Well, the thing is like Taekwondo has their own way of saying it, and they call it dojang.
Dojang.
Okay. But so many schools, jiu-jitsu, karate, they all call it a dojo. Even the guy I love to follow on Instagram who has gone out by calling out fake martial artists, people who think they can knock out other people with their mind. Yeah. He has a page and he calls it McDojo Life.
Okay.
So dojo is just pretty common, and I like to use it.
Okay, that's great. So yeah, I was thinking that's really something that's really useful. Have you watched any of the Cobra Kai? Because everyone's obsessed with that.
Have I watched it? That show is brilliant. I
Tough
mean,
question, right?
so great. It's had, and you know what I think? Like our generation is so blessed because we came up in the 80s.
Yeah.
So we know the 80s nostalgia in the movie. And then we also understand the beauty of the present time that it's being filmed in. So it's just such a great show. I love it.
Yeah, it's really great. And I think I haven't been able to check it out yet. So I have to get on the bandwagon, but everybody else I know is like obsessed with it, So I know. I haven't really been watching any TV lately. I've been so bad, Jason. So
did you watch The Karate Kid back in the day?
Of course. I mean, I'm a huge Karate Kid.
Do you have Netflix?
No. I have to. I know. I will.
I mean, I'm not trying to convince you to get Netflix just for that. But I think you can see the first episode still on YouTube.
Okay.
So I would definitely go check out the first episode. But I warn you, you might purchase Netflix.
Yeah, I know, because then I'm gonna have to watch the whole entire episode. Well, that is my homework. I will get on that and I will get back to you about what I thought of it. Because I hear everybody's like bragging about it, so I will check it out. Everybody knows just binge watch the whole entire episode. So martial arts and then the cooking. So you started making the videos and people really took a liking to you. You really developed a lot of content. You've created a ton of content over the past couple of years. You have a huge YouTube fan base, a huge Facebook fan base. What was that like originally, and how does your family feel about it? Because I know it's time consuming sometimes when you're doing content and social media.
Yeah, look, I give a lot of credit to my wife because in the beginning of this, I didn't make anything.
Yeah.
I was doing it for a good solid year. Yeah, I mean, look, that's what it is. I mean, if you want to create content and you want it to be a livelihood, you have to go head first into it for nothing.
Yep.
And then a lot of it could be giving up what or learn. Like in my case is just giving away every recipe that I've put together.
Yep.
That people have used in cook-offs, people have put in cookbooks, people have even used my recipes to cook lunches at the diner.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the more you share your stuff like that, and the people know where they got it from, they're inclined to share it with other people as well. And I've noticed too that the support is tremendous. But like I said, getting back to my wife in the beginning days, there was no money in it. I had lost my job in the oil field and I picked up a part-time job with another company. And the reason why I went on with that company was because I was given more freedom to do what I wanted on the side.
Okay.
And I knew if I jumped back into the corporate life, none of this would have happened. So we made a huge sacrifice. I mean, we made a lot less money just with the job I had taken, and wore a lot of the same clothes for this the next 2 years. But ultimately, what it has blossomed into now is a full-time thing, and I'm forever grateful, not just for of course my wife and my family, but absolutely everybody who tunes in.
Yeah. Every
time I see them and meet them in person, I try to give as much time, so much time that it gets to the point that they're like, all right, well, it was nice meeting you. Because I will talk.
Yeah.
If you haven't noticed already, I love to talk.
Yeah, I same. I mean, I think that's something about, you like people. And I think sometimes when you meet people, I just love hearing people's stories. And it's kind of nice to finally meet people face to face. I've made a lot of friends over the past year through social media. And it's like, you really make a good connection if you really put the time and energy into. It goes back to like the original thing you were saying about building the martial arts, building a social media platform or building a brand. It takes a lot of time and energy. And sometimes you wake up certain days, you're like, damn, here I am again. And like, what, like my husband calls this my hobby sometimes. And I'm like, yeah, I know it's a hobby, but hopefully like it's building things slowly. But I mean, that's the process of it. When you have something that you love or there's something you really want to give to people, it just sometimes takes time to cultivate it and let it grow. So you just have to kind of get in there and just follow your gut sometimes. And I love the fact that you chose not to get into a business and said, I'm just going to give myself a little time to see what I can do with this. And I think that's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody who is doing this type of stuff, I cannot reiterate enough that you cannot focus on the numbers. You just have to do what you love and enjoy doing it, and the right people will tune in. There are a lot of people who get into the creative content world and they try to figure out what the audience wants to see and watch. And a lot of times you can hit the nail on something and then you run with it. But over time, you will lose that passion for it because you're just creating stuff to please other people and not do things that you genuinely love and enjoy. you know? So yeah, you just got to take your time. It's one day at a time. And every one new person that comes in, I like this. I say this is my kind of my line. One is greater than a million. And what I mean by that is just this right here. You and I talking like this, to me, it means and feels so much more special to me than to see my whole numbers climb and think that my following is this, my following is this. Because each of one of those people are one. They're one individual, and it started with one to get there.
Totally agree with you. I think that's so important too, because I think we're in this society right now too, where like there's so many new social media apps that come out every other day, and people that are trying to content create or build something that they want, like whether it be cooking content or dance videos or funny videos. You know, it's really it's a long haul, and things change so rapidly. So if you're chasing the likes, I think it can be a really big recipe for a disaster for some people, because then what that one thing hit, then you're trying to always recreate. It's almost like you're always trying to find that golden nugget that when you went through, you know, you were digging and digging, you found that one and you think it's everywhere, but it might not. So I think that's a really great advice for a lot of people, to kind of go with what is more, what works well for you instead of what works well for the algorithm or for likes. So I think that's a great message, Jason.
Yeah. I mean, you know, here's the thing, numbers don't end, right? So if you're chasing them, you're not going to find happiness. You're just going to reach another milestone, and then you're going to constantly be chasing, you know, and that we just know where that leads to, you know. And look, my first video is my most viral video to date. My first cooking video, I should say. And reluctantly, I kick it up, you know, by the grace of God. I didn't have this mentality that I had to best that one, you know. I'm thankful for what that video brought to the table, but I'm just as happy to post creamy guacamole for a few thousand, you know?
Right. What are some of the things you learned about content creating? I mean, you know, do you have anybody that helps you, or do you do everything yourself?
I mean, I do everything as far as like, you know, the push of this page, you know, but I always give my wife credit, because like, even though she may not know how to edit a video or what have you, or she doesn't come film anything, she keeps them little ones under wrap a lot of times. There's many times she's brought them in the back bedroom and just entertained them for 3 hours at a time, just so I could finish up a video. But yeah, as far as the creative side, I'm the star, editor, producer, director. You know, I answer all the comments. It was funny because I'm dealing with grocery stores now for my new seasoning, and one of them said, "Yeah, we see you comment a lot. Do you have somebody do that for you?" And I'm like, "No, I handle it every day."
I think that's really important. I think a lot of people are, again, going back to like numbers, you know, you want numbers, but then they don't want to even cultivate what they already have. So that doesn't really benefit, you know, the process, because, you know, you're going to need people that are going to stick with you through all the different things, especially when you start new endeavors, you know. And if you have a really great connection with the people that are tuning into your content, then that's going to really help you to kind of like, because they're going to be there to support you for the long haul and all the different phases that you go through. Do you have any tips for people? You know, that maybe some people that are at home that are making some content and they're trying to learn some things. Were there any good tutorial videos that you watched, or any apps or anything that you recommend for people that are home trying to figure out being a one man or one woman show?
Yeah, look, I honestly just learned the app I was working on. I use a little app called Video Shop, and to this day, I started filming on my phone. I still film on my phone. You know, some people think that I have this you know, expensive line of stuff, but I've just learned to navigate through the software I use so that I can fine tune things within the video right there in the app. My biggest tip for anybody is just to be patient, you know, and also too, you know, don't criticize yourself too hard. You know, like I said, my most viral video to date is also my lowest quality, and you don't even see me in it. You know,
really?
You never see me take a bite or anything. As a matter of fact, I filmed that one on Snapchat, just clip after clip. And I don't know if you've ever been on Snapchat, but it used to be 6-second clips. So if you actually go back and watch my first Gumbo video ever, it's 6-second clips, and I just pieced it all together and uploaded it, you know. But yeah, definitely be patient. You know, if you're in the content world, never take for granted the people who tune in. You know, build a personal relationship with them one by one by one. I tell you, like years ago, I mean, I've been doing this now 4.5 years, this stuff, and I can remember just sitting on the couch for hours, just answering people back, answering people back, answering people back, you know. And I'd go so deep into it, like, just like, oh, thanks for commenting, you know. Like if they say, hey, where'd you get that pot? I wouldn't just say over here.
Right.
Oh, hey, I'd be like, hey, Crystal, you know, like, and I'd put an exclamation point, you know, because I want them to know I'm excited they're here. And I want them to know that I appreciate it. And here's my heartfelt response. And that's what I think people should do if they want to build a brand that's personal to the public, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree because, you know, I think that's one of the things that is kind of nice to have someone that does connect with you and that you kind of remember. And I think that I think for the past year, I don't know, have the past year with coronavirus, you know, how was that for you? Like, was life really slow? Were you home for most of it? Were you making a lot more content? Were you making less content? Because I think it was a really interesting year that a lot of people really did tune into technology. They really did use social media as a way to kind of get through things because they were home. So how was the past year for you?
Yeah, you know, it's kind of like a catch-22. You know, my wife owns hair salons. So in that retrospect, it was a bummer, you know, had to completely shut down her businesses. On the other side of things, you know, my world of social media was its own business now, and people were home, you know, people were wanting to cook. I didn't make as much content, mainly too, because my office is also my kid's house.
Yeah.
So that made things a little difficult. But the plus side was that I had so much content made prior. And even to this day, I'm able to like resurface videos and still gain new followers, and then also trigger people who have been here a while who maybe either didn't see the video before or they said, you know, I've been meaning to make that, you know. So yeah, I mean, I was fortunate, you know, during 2020. My heart goes out to people that didn't have such a good year, and I know it was a rough one for a lot of people, but you know, I was able to count my blessings. Hey, babe, I think Gumbo needs to go outside. I just want to let you know my dog is running back and forth, and
your dog's like, I need to get outside.
He needs to potty, and he's already yeah. So
no, I totally agree with you. The same thing for me. Like I had a love-hate with 2020 because like there was a lot of things that were frustrating about it, you know, like, you know, being home for the months and, you know, watching the restaurant industry kind of suffer the way it was because that's the industry I've been in for like the past 20 years. But then like I started a show and I really started making a lot of really cool connections and putting a lot of content out. So then I had like this really fun thing I was doing on the side. So I almost kind of felt guilty that I was kind of, you know, happy and trying to help people. But, you know, I had to kind of, in my head, I had to kind of say like, okay, listen, I can't control the good, the bad, the ugly that's going on. All I can kind of do is bring something to the table. And if I can, you know, give people a break from like the normal stuff that's going on, or I can make people lighten up and laugh, or I can have a cool conversation, then that's what I'm going to do. And that's what I kind of focused on. And that's what kind of brought this into the next level. And that's what made Chicken in the Bag come out, because I've been talking to people for over a year on Instagram. And I was like, all right, let me try to like branch out into other platforms now. So that's what this is going to be. So that this is like episode 5. So I'm glad to be able to catch up with you and have you back on and see what's been going on in your life.
Yeah, look, I love where you're headed, Kristen. And I think the first time I talked to you, obviously, you know, I discovered you when you were able to get on Tea with Great Gary Vee. Mm-hmm. And like I told you back then, I thought it would be cool just to meet you, you know what I'm saying? Like, just because I think a lot of people maybe want to talk to you and how did you get on there? You know, how was Gary, you know, but like, I think it's fascinating to talk to the person who did it, you know, mm-hmm. and how they got on there and just get to know them. And what we have is blossomed into a pretty cool friendship. You know, we keep up with each other on social media, and, you know, it's cool to see how you've evolved now. I mean, dude, this is so much fancier than the first time I was on here. You know, like, you got this little background with your image all over it. You have a logo.
Yeah.
I mean, we started up early to check the mic and all. Yeah. I think the first time I came on your show, like, I was in the comments for 15 minutes till you finally figured out how to get me in.
I know, that's what I was trying to say to people, because I'm like, that's one of the things I'm trying to do. Like a lot of the content I put out is like just share, because I think so many people overthink things, or they don't start because like, oh, it's not going to be, you know, nice. And a funny story about this, I've been doing this show for 5 weeks, actually really 6, because episode 1 is called the lost episode because I didn't press live. So I thought I was live, and I did a whole entire episode that doesn't even exist. And I felt so bad having to tell my first guest, like, sorry, that wasn't even recorded. And he was like, no problem, we'll do a do-over someday. But that's part of the process. So like you were saying, like, just take the chance and get started and keep trying things. And I was lucky enough to have somebody that kind of said, hey, Kristen, why don't you do a podcast? Like he's actually going to be on, I think, next week. And he's the one that kind of helped me get all this stuff set up. And it is kind of cool because you're learning new technology and you're learning new techniques, and you just want to kind of bring cool conversations to people. And I think, people are missing people right now because a lot of people, like, it blows my mind because I've been working since June and my husband's been working through the whole lockdown because he's in construction. So that's going in Boston. And so when I meet people that are like, this is like, the other day I was at work and someone goes, oh, this is the first time I've been out in a year. And I have to be like, whoa, wait, I have to process that for a second because I've been working since June with the public. You know what I mean? So, I think so. That's why I think right now is a great time to be having interesting conversations, because I think people are missing conversation and they're missing people. And I think everyday people are sometimes doing cool things. And I think it's nice to let people know what other people's journey was and how they got started. And I kind of think that, with something like cooking, you went from working in, the oil industry, then cooking, and now like, your TikTok content and the family content, like it's unbelievable, like what you've built over the past couple of years.
Yeah. And look, almost everything I've ever done, I never had the intention of doing. When I started the page, I didn't mean to get into cooking. I was actually, several years ago, much younger days, I was in a local cover band down here, and we used to play 90s rock music.
No way.
I got started in that because someone dared me to sing karaoke, and I was like, screw it, I'll get up there and do it. So yeah, like I love the idea of just doing things, just going for it, because you don't know where it's going to lead you, and that's the beauty of it. Like I said, this is really cool for you because, like, I saw you when you were starting.
Yeah.
And it has evolved. It's gotten better. And it's gotten better in a short amount of time. I mean, we talked maybe a year ago.
Yeah.
Than that. Yeah, not even. I mean, it was just in the first few months of the quarantine. So it's coming up on a year. And look where you are now, right? You got a pretty cool setup here. So it's only going to get better, and it can get better quick too. So I'm excited for you.
Well, I appreciate that. I think that's what a lot of people don't realize. I think that the only way you're going to get better, and it was kind of funny because the other day my sister was like, oh my God, you're always doing stuff. Like you're always talking to people. And I was like, yeah, because I feel like the more conversations you have, the more you learn about how to have conversations. So anytime people come like, hey, you want to be in a podcast? I'm like, sure. And then I'm like, hey, you want to come on my podcast? It's like, yeah. So it's really kind of cool to be able to, I feel like the more you do things, the better you're going to get at it. The same thing with like anything you want to do. If you want to be a singer, if you want to be a comedian, if you want to be a dancer, repetition is the only way you're going to get there. You're not going to get there overnight. You're not going to be the best at it right away. And, the more that you're willing to put yourself out there. And I love the fact you say people dare you and anything you've done. Same with me. So many things that I've done in my life, I didn't intend on doing. You know what I mean? Like, I'll be like, I'm going to go on a game show. And then they get on a game show. And it's like, what do you mean you're on the game? You know what I mean? Because I just say, I'm just going to try it. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that they can just try something. Like, what's the big deal? If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Like if they booed you off the stage, they would have booed you off the stage. So I love that you got up there and did karaoke and then you turned into a band. That's pretty cool. Did you sing?
Yeah, I was a lead singer for the band, but I always tell people I was a pretty average singer. I was reluctant to play with really good musicians, and it was also during times where people were heavily drinking. So
yeah,
it was probably amazing to them. But
what's the song that they always wanted you to sing? Because everyone always yells out from the audience like, "Play Freebird!" But
we were kind of that '90s group, so there were people that yell like, "Play Tool," or something like that. But we actually started out playing like Stained and Incubus and 311 and all those jams that I love.
Oh
but God. when you want to start gaining more crowd, you got to play like Brown Eyed Girl and and It's Tricky and things that get butts moving, right? And when you start throwing those in the mix, you get more people. But yeah, it was great times. Honestly, I love what you said about repetition. I want to go back on that real quick because that is one of my favorite things, and that's something I attribute to martial arts because the only way you can become a good martial artist is through repetition. And even going back further, when you were talking about Bruce Lee, one of his great lines was, "I do not fear the man who knows 10,000 kicks. I fear the man who's done one kick 10,000 times."
Yes.
So when I put those into perspective, it really lets me know when I get frustrated and just started doing something that I'm nowhere near 10,000 kicks. And I have like adults that are in my adult class in martial arts, and they'll get frustrated when they come in, and I'm like, look, it took you a year to learn how to walk.
Right.
So You're barely crawling today, you know?
Right.
So
That's,
I love
that's
that.
a great thing. I love that. I love that Bruce Lee quote because I think that's so true. I think there's also a quote like that about like to become a expert in anything. I think it's 10,000 hours. Somebody says once you've done something 10,000 hours, you're an expert, something like that. So I think that people have to understand that like it takes time to get good at something, and you know if you really want it, then you're just going to keep doing it. But if you don't really want it, or you're something not passionate about, you're not going to stick with it because you're going to be like, oh, this is too hard. This is boring. I don't want to do it anymore. You know, you'll lose your steam. And I think that's one of the things that I notice with a lot of people nowadays. You know, it seems like they want it instantly. And it's just like, no, like it's not going to be how it's going to be. And I know a lot of people reaching out to me in the beginning and they were just like, oh, like, so like, what are you doing? Like, are you this, are you that? And I was like, I'm cool. I'm just chilling right now. I'm just having cool conversations and just seeing like I'm kind of enjoying like the ride of just getting to know people. And I really feel like sometimes when you sit back in the journey, it's when you learn the most, you know, because through conversations with people weekly, certain things will keep coming up. You know, when you're sometimes trying to figure out like, what do I want to gravitate towards? And I think there's so many people that will just jump on a bandwagon and they're like, oh, now it's this and you have to do this. And now it's this and you have to do that. And now in the beginning, I was like, that was too overwhelming to me. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna chill and keep working on this because this is where I'm comfortable. And then I'll branch off to this and this. And I kind of took my time and I'm kind of glad I did because I really feel like certain things keep coming up to me that I'm kind of like, ooh, I think this is what I could kind of help people with, you know? And I kind of feel like that's where I'm getting the message, like what, like really like more of a fine-tuned idea. And so I think that's where I'm kind of finding the way of what more content I'm going to be putting out or what direction I want to take it in.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like, I mean, going back to what you have all around you right now, it's just, it's a product of trying new things, you know, and getting people on with you and probably meeting new people who understand what all this is and help you along the way. I mean, to be honest, I want to say your little podcast or a little show from the jump was the only one out to date that I have reached out to and said, hey, if you need somebody, I'm willing to come on. And not that I'm willing to go on anybody's show, but I don't usually reach out to people. But like, I felt like it would be fun to catch you early on, you know, and be a part of what you're doing early on, you know, because it's not often you get to be a part of something when they're putting the paint on the wall.
Right. Building it.
Yeah. And like, that was exciting to me. I mean, sure, there's big podcasts and big shows that might be cool to get on. But if yours truly does blow up in something big, I can say, look, I was the guy who was on there back when it was vertical on Instagram. It took forever to even get me in.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'm pumped for you, man. This is really cool.
That. So you do a lot of different things. Don't you do some stuff with like, don't you do some like local radio or ESPN out your way too? Like, what are some of the other things that you do where you do some talking and jumping on with some other people?
I haven't jumped into the podcast world, but I have thought about it. I have an idea for a show that I want to do that also involves food. It's still kind of kicking it around, but whenever it comes to fruition, I'm pretty sure it'll be a really cool concept. Whether or not people like it, I guess it's on them. But I like the idea coming forward. But I'll get into that later. But yeah, I do weekly segments on ESPN Radio during some of the sports times like college football season and what have you, because they want to know what we cooking this weekend and what have you. But right now we've been kind of on a break. You know, there's not much of that going on. And you know, if we would do basketball games, it'd be 2-3 times a week. So, but I'm okay with it. I understand that they got to change up the show here and there. But when I am on there, it's pretty cool. You know, I mean, that guy discovered me because his brother-in-law made my pastelaia.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he's like, man, this is great. Where'd you learn to cook? He said, man, the Cajun Ninja. He's like, who the Cajun Ninja is? And the next thing you know, he's calling me. He's like, hey, I'm Gus with ESPN Radio. Let's start doing a segment. I was like, let's do it.
Oh, that's so awesome. So now Cajun Ninja, is that because it's the combination of the type of food you make and the martial arts? Is that where the name came from?
Yeah, it was kind of random. Okay, so like I started the page and I was calling it What You Doing Derouen, which is a play on my last name, even though it's wrong. The proper way to say my name is Derouen, which is like French pronunciation. And some people even say Derouen, and then some people say Derouen, and some people say Drara. I mean, it gets butchered all kind of ways.
Right.
You know, and when I got to high school, one of my coaches was like, Derouen, get your ass over here. And so my friends started calling me that, and I was like excited to even get called by a last name. So I have ran with it ever since. But yeah, that was the page. It was What You Doing Derouen. And then when I did the Gumbo video, on the very first video, I threw the Trinity in and I was like, Paella! and like people seem to like that. So the next video I did, I chopped it with my hand, and I said, "Don't mess with the Cajun Ninja." And then people were calling me that, and so I was like, well, maybe I should change the name to Cajun Ninja, which, crazy enough, was so hard to do. Facebook is so crazy. Like, they will not let you change anything or what have you. It took me several attempts to change my name from What You're Doing Derouen to the Cajun Ninja.
Okay.
And when I did, there was like 1,000 people who unfollowed the page. Yeah, pretty wild. I know, like, but I guess, you know, you get a notification when page names changes, and I think they were unsure if like it had been taken over or what have you.
Right.
But reluctantly, it all came back up, and you know, I've run with the Cajun Ninja name, and it is a play on my love of my culture and love of martial arts.
I love that. So let's talk about your new endeavor, Paella. Right? It's your season. You want to show us what it looks like, and you get it in some stores.
Yeah, this is my new seasoning, Paella Seasoning, the official seasoning of the Cajun Ninja. Actually, all last year, I worked on this recipe in my kitchen. You know, you can actually go to people that blend seasonings, and they have different blends on standby that you can just slap a label on and call it your own. And this is actually my legit recipe. I had a scale. I was measuring out grams. It was like Breaking Bad of seasoning in my kitchen. You know?
Seasonings for cooking. That's so awesome. I love that.
It was crazy. And, you know, and I actually have a video in January. It's on my phone because it's dated in January of last year. And I go, this may be the first time Paella seasoning gets used. Turns out that wasn't it, because every time I was like, no, I got to add a little bit of this or take away that. And finally, I'm glad I took my time with it. It's been getting really good feedback. There's been a lot of great support, and you know, hopefully you see it up there where you are one day.
Yeah,
I'll mail you some after this. You know, let me know where I can send you some, and you can give it a try.
Absolutely, that'd be cool. I'd love to check it out, because I definitely know my older sister will definitely like to check it out too, because she does a lot of cooking, and I think that she would be the one to really dig it. What was that process like? What made you say, I want to, do you have other products that you want to start branching off into other product lines, or do you have other things that I don't know about, or anything you want to talk about that?
Yeah, well, I've had the Paella spatula for a long time, you know, which I don't have one next to me. I can go grab one if, actually, I got one right here.
All right, you can show us.
This was my original cooking tool here that I would showcase in every video, you know, and it's got my catchphrase on it, Paella, and my little Cajun Ninja dude, which I'm real proud of. My buddy Jonathan, shout out to him. I call him my Asian buddy Jonathan because he's Asian, but he's introduced me to a lot of great Asian food, and he has a love for food too. He also designed the label for this can here.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so he's a big help of what I do on my page, and yeah, so it started with the spatula, you know, a couple years ago, and I didn't think nothing of it. I was like, well, let me put something out there people might want, and I mean, I sold that spatula in every state in the country, you know. And, yeah, people were buying it. I guess it was just because they were able to connect with me, right? Like, I use this in the videos,
right?
And now they can too. And then I've since, you know, I've got shirts and coffee mugs and the hats and what have you. But I can see myself branching off into other products.
That'd be cool.
But, the guy who handles all e-commerce now, he had been saying, Jason, you need to make a seasoning. You need to make a seasoning.
Yeah.
And I didn't think much of it. I was like, well, I really want to make sure it's something I know I would love and like and use. And then I did, and man, it's been very overwhelming. You know, I don't know where it's headed. Maybe the iron's hot, but right now it's overwhelming. I'm excited to see where it goes.
Well, it's very exciting. I want to say congratulations to you, because, you know, it's not always easy to kind of like get through the process, and it's a lot of meetings and a lot of yeses and a lot of nos, and then shelf space. I know when I watch like Marcus Lemonis, he's always like finding people's products and helping them kind of like take their small business and then get it into like big network, big stores, box stores. And it's kind of fascinating, like, to understand the whole industry of like supermarkets and shelf space, and you know, it's just a lot into it. So I think so congratulations that you've been doing this on your own, and what you're getting done. So I hope it does go everywhere. That'd be so cool for you.
Yeah, I think the unique part about having the platform and selling a seasoning is that I've been able to put it in places that you normally wouldn't sell seasoning.
Right.
You know, like, and and a lot of these people, they reach out to me. Like I'm selling it at this place called the Cedar Chest Boutique in Beaumont, Texas. And this nice lady, Miss Diane, had reached out to me, and she's like, I'd love to sell your products in here. And it started out with the spatula, but then she wanted the seasoning when it came out. And she was like, Jason, I got guys coming in off the interstate. I haven't seen guys in my store in like a year.
I love that.
And they're stopping in and buying the seasoning. So yeah, I'm reluctant to be able to just kind of put it anywhere.
Yeah.
You know? And then at the same time, I shout out the small business. They get a marketing of their place. You know, so it's kind of it's a real win-win. You know, I got a place to sell my seasoning, and then I'm also spotlighting them.
Yeah, that's nice though. That's how people take care of each other. It's how little things build into bigger things sometimes, you know, showcasing them. That's what's lovely about having notoriety or names or something like that, you know. One thing I really want to talk to you about is you're such an amazing dad, you know, and you know, you're a father of 3 girls. Congratulations. That's tough. I am one of 3 girls. My mom did it on her own. She's a single mom. And I can only imagine, like, I watch a lot of your videos and your daughters are adorable. Your wife is amazing. Like, you just have a really great family. And I just love watching some of the family content that you do. What are some of the things, I mean, I know today is International Women's Day. And I think we don't really talk enough about how sometimes a good father can be a really helpful thing for young women, developing good habits and picking good men, having a good role model. So, oh wait, someone just wants to say, Louis wants to say, cool to know where some of those boutique stores get their product. Okay, thank you, Louis. That's a great point. So what I was getting back to about, you know, you being such a great dad, what are some of the things you do to empower your young girls? Do they do martial arts? I see that you do a lot of like one-on-one time with them and family adventures. So what are some of the things you think?
Yeah, look, you know, we just kind of live by the edge of our seat, you know, and that's kind of how I want them to remember life with their parents. Is that you don't necessarily have to have a plan. You know, you can just go for something whenever, and we'll book a vacation literally 2 days before we leave. You know, like that's how we are. At the same time, yeah, I want them to know that I am very supportive of their lives. You know, it's important for me as a dad to you know, instill these values of what a good man is, right? You know, especially for young ladies, because there are times that a lot of women are taken advantage of, you know, and not to say men aren't either, but, you know, and just thinking of the sense of, you know, what happens to young children and a lot of young girls and then even into a teenage and young adulthood, you know, sometimes they can be taken advantage of. So I want them to know and see, you know, what it means to, you know, to be around a good, upstanding male who cares about their overall well-being, you know, and that means a lot to me. It means more to me than anything I have in my life right now, other than my wife, you know. It's her, and then you know, taking care of them. But yeah, they're absolute blessing. I tell people often the way you end up with 3 girls is you try to make 1 boy.
That is so true. Because like, oh, maybe the next one, and then I'll get 3 girls. Craig Willis says he's going to get some of that seasoning. You should, Craig. Yes, do it. He appreciates that. Yeah, I think that's so true. Now, your daughters, I know that me and my sisters are all very different. Do your daughters have like different personalities, or are they all very similar? Because I know I'm the middle, and I'm a lot. And then my little sister's a perfectionist, and she's super smart. And my older sister's a little bit quieter, and she's like the rule follower. So I wasn't sure if like they have little different dynamic personalities. Yeah.
So you, sibling of 3, maybe you tell me if this is accurate, but I tell people this a lot, and they seem to say that coincides with exactly how their children are. The first one is usually, you know, by the book, you know, like not very, very intimidated to take risks, you know, usually scared of things. The second one is rebellious, you know. They're just a rebel, you know. They just have this rebel attitude, and they will argue a point with you, and like, no, that's not it. You know? And the third one is just hell on wheels. That kid is just, I'm going. I'm just flying, you know, off the seat. I'm gonna go for whatever, and not even think about what the consequences could be. That's the third, you know. But yeah, that's how the 3 of them are, and I love their personalities. they all, you just fit well into who they are. And it's exciting to watch them grow.
I love that. So like Jason, it must be kind of cool though, because you're doing your own thing. Like you said, your office is your home, right? So I mean, what are some of the benefits of that? Like, is it hard always being home because you're trying to get everything you got to be done, but then sometimes they're putting the dad hat on, but you're also in like Cajun Ninja hat. So how do you kind of juggle that? Because that's going to be a little bit difficult sometimes.
Well, I'm super ADD, so like it's kind of awesome, because throughout life when I was working, I mean, I started off in the restaurant industry. I sold cars for like 5 years. I was a salesman in the oil field. I always had to dedicate time to do what it was.
Right.
Whereas this, like, I have to dedicate time, but like I can take 2 hours answering comments and then go play with them at the park, or I can come back, I can do a cooking video, and then maybe go play Nintendo with one of them, or find time to well, mostly my wife helps them with their homework, so I'm not going to say that's all me, but every once in a while I have to step in and do something. And I think that's what's the blessing of it, is that I work every day with what I do. Like literally, I do not take a day off from that page. When we're on vacation, I stop and answer people. When we're a Sunday, whatever, we'll stop and answering people. There's never been a day off from it since I started it. But the cool thing is I can still manage time to do everything I want to do.
I love that. That's really great. And I think I'm ADD too, I believe. And I'm a multitasker, so I'm the same way. I'm like, got my hands on a lot of different things. So I like to do a lot of things. So yeah, that's the same. Your wife does a lot of videos with you. How did you get her to start getting in front of the camera with you? Because that is something that you probably will not see in my house. So I want to know how that started for you.
Yeah, look, I'm very reluctant because my wife is definitely the yin to yang when it comes to me and her. Like she's not the big social butterfly. Oftentimes you meet her, she's pretty shy. Unless you get her to come out of her shell, she starts to know you, then she'll really talk, and you just love her, But the real thing I've been lucky about her is, she's willing to at least try. There's times I'll get her to do something and like you guys don't see it, but before we're even doing it, she's like, "Oh my gosh, Jason, come on." Like she doesn't want to do it, but then when she sees the end result of it, she'll laugh or she'll love it. Because there's things that you watch that I'll do with her that I've added in sounds or I've added music, and when we're doing it, it's just dead silence and it's weird.
Yeah.
But thankfully, like, because I've gotten to, bring her in more and more, she's kind of developing her own thing now, and I asked her to do it, but she didn't want to. But I said, you should change your name on Instagram to Miss Cajun Ninja, because people know her as the Cajun Ninja's wife.
Right.
Said, be your own person. Just be Miss Cajun Ninja. And so now she started the Facebook page and the Instagram, and she doesn't really have an idea of where she wants to go with it. But, it's been a fun place for people to get to know her. And I love that. Like I try to showcase her as much as possible, because I don't really want this page to just be a me show, because there's so much more to me than me, and I love when I do have those moments where I can bring her in and put her in there. And I'm so thankful that she does it.
Yeah, that's great. I was actually talking to my guest last week, Joe Godet. He's a voice actor, and he's very much a hands-on dad because he works from home. He has a sound studio there, and that's what he was saying about making content. A lot of people just want him to do like the funny voice or do the Arnold impression, and he's like, "Yeah, but I'm a dad and I like to golf." So it's kind of, I think that's what the tricky thing is that a lot of times people like you for that, and I think that's great that you diversified early on. Because now they probably look forward to like, oh, what is he going to cook today? Oh my God, that was so funny with his daughters. You know what I mean? And so I think that's kind of cool because they kind of get the whole view of Jason.
Yeah, and look, you sometimes lose followers because of it. I've had people chime in and say, I liked you better when you were just cooking. And then I'm not one to really like shy away from a comment. My mom in the early days would be like, Jason, don't respond like that. People are not going to like you. And I'm like, oh, well,
yeah,
this is who I am. So if somebody says something like that, then I would tell them like, look, you didn't like me to begin with, because that's me. I'm still the same guy. I'm just cooking. But this is me when I'm not cooking. you know. So, or people say, you know, I'm going to stop watching you, and I'll be like, fine, go watch something else. You know, you know, there's too many good people for me to answer to on a daily basis to have to waste time with the ones who want to bring negativity. I mean, there are so many positive people who come in that page that I don't get to even keep up with all of them, and I feel so bad. So when the negative ones,
so challenging. Yes.
Yeah, I'm usually quick to tell the negative ones where to go, because you got other stuff you can watch, bro. Don't come at me.
I totally agree with you. I think that's what's so crazy about like social media. People just feel like they can just say whatever they want, and they sometimes forget that's a person. And I was saying the other day, I'm like, I don't really normally ever say anything negative. Like, I don't care. Like, a lot of people have a lot of different opinions on a lot of different things nowadays. And I'm like, I don't have the time or energy to be like fighting with people about like what they put out or what they think. I'm like, I'll just scroll and keep going. I don't have the, you know what I mean? And so when people don't like something I post, I say, I appreciate your input. You know what I mean? Or good. I'm sorry that you feel that way. And that's what I leave it at, because I'm like, you're not going to change another person's, opinion. Either they're going to like what you're putting out, or they're not going to like what you're putting out, So they get it or they don't get it. And that's okay. And you got to focus on the ones that do get what you're doing.
Yeah. For me, sometimes it's fun, because what happens is people will throw the negative comments out there, and I don't like that they could be manipulating the mind of somebody who's positive. So that's why I answer back.
Yeah.
But sometimes people just, they lob them up to me. This one guy came in and said, there's no beans in Chile. And he wrote Chile like the country. And I put, Chile's a country in South America. I'm pretty sure they have beans. And like tons of people like it, they love that, because I think the vast majority of us are like, just chill with it. Look, like if you don't like it, don't make it, what have you.
Make it your way. This is my way.
And that's why I respond the way I do, because I want to grab all those people who think like that, who just want to like come together and be like, yes, let's just share ideas and share, and just be our unique selves, because that's what life is. We're all different. I mean, we are all our own recipe, every single one of us, So, I mean, I think that's why I really think this whole platform of food was given to me as a gift, to just understand people, because, we all have a different palette of how we enjoy food.
Yeah.
We all have a different outlook on how we see the world.
Yes.
So the more you're willing to like want to hear somebody else's outlook and how they view things or what's going on in their life, the more you're just going to understand the purpose of life and the meaning of life and what life really is.
Totally agree. That's kind of like the metaphor for this show. Is kind of like, what makes life interesting is just, like chicken in the bag is a dish I used to make at my sister's house when I used to babysit the kids a lot. My brother-in-law would be like, what's for dinner? I'm like, chicken in a bag. And you just threw it all in a bag and you put it in the oven. But when you would open up the bag, all the different seasonings and all the different stuff would mix together. So when I was coming up with the name for this podcast, he's like, you have to do chicken in a bag. And I was like, chicken in a bag? What is that? I'm like, it's kind of a metaphor for life, we all think that we all have our own way of doing anything, but when you really mix it up, that's when life is interesting, mixing all together instead of just keeping everything separate, And I think that's variety is the spice of life. So I love that that's what you said about what cooking is, because cooking, communication, conversation, the diversity of different thoughts and feelings and conversing with each other. And a lot of times you share thoughts and feelings over food and drink. So it just kind of all ties into like what it's all about. And I just love that. And I think it's so important, like you don't have to make the recipe this way. This is how I make it, but you don't have to think this way, but I do. And I think that's when you can kind of mix it all up and be like, it's okay. We can still have dinner together or have a drink.
Yeah. I love when people come to me and say they changed up my recipe, because then they're putting their own creativity on the dish, and they're making it their own.
Yeah.
I love that. I can't get enough into just how cool it is to really discover and hone in on the differences of all of us. One of the analogies I love to use when people tell me that's not right, or you're doing it wrong, or you're messing it up, is, look, there are people who love green olives, and I absolutely hate them.
I do too. I hate them.
I love food. Like, there's very few things I won't eat, but I cannot eat a green olive. And somebody out there in their mind knows the feeling of it tasting good in their mouth. And so for me to say that what I'm doing is right, and what they think is wrong, it just completely, I eliminated wrong altogether when it comes to food. I feel like there is no wrong when it comes to food. There's only what's right for you and what's right for me. And once you start realizing that, you have this mind of just opening up possibilities for everything.
Right.
And it's awesome.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a great way to think of it, because I think that's what we've kind of gone away from a little bit. It's just kind of understanding that it's just not for me. I always say to everybody, you might love salmon. I don't like it. You can spice it up. You can do whatever with it. You can grill it. I'm not going to eat it. But it doesn't mean that it's not good for you. And it doesn't mean that it's not delicious. It's just not something I like. So that's how I kind of
I don't know if somebody knocked on the door or something. Sorry. Oh, hey. I don't know. Might have been a UPS package or something. Hey,
no one's messing with your house with that dog. No, but no, that's a good. I love that. So that's a really great concept, and I'm glad that we got onto that little topic. So Jason, you've done a lot. You got the paella going out. Anything you have besides any other ideas that are going through that head, or anything that you're working on, or something that you maybe one goal that you haven't done yet that you have in the back of your mind that you want to go in the future?
Yeah, I really have the idea of a show that I want to do. I do want to do that. I can't talk more about it yet, but maybe I'll tell you off camera. But that I want to do that. I definitely have more dishes to create. I have them. Just things have been so crazy with the seasoning. I mean, we're traveling to bring it to stores, having it shipped to new places, having meetings with potential new vendors. It's made things pretty busy, but ultimately, it's wild. I never really have a plan. I think I might have told you that last time we talked. I never really have a plan. I just kind of, as something comes and I wake up one day and I say, you know what, let me just try. And I think that's what happened with the seasoning. I just woke up and said, let me see what I blended it together. And then that's where it evolves, and usually that's kind of the mind of an ADD person, in my opinion. Because a lot of times we have a tough time starting something, but when we start it, all right, we got to get this going. We're just so dialed in.
Yeah.
So I never want to just try to force myself to start things, because then that's when I get to a point where I'm not happy, like I'm forcing it. So I don't have a plan as of yet, but I didn't have a plan to start a cooking show, and here I am. So
and here you are, 4 years. Yeah,
I just keep doing that,
No, I totally agree with that. I'm the same way. Sometimes an idea just pops in my head and I'm like, I'm going to try this. It's like how I did comedy. I was like, I looked at my husband one day. I'm like, everyone is so angry at the bar. I'm so sick of everybody being so divided. I'm just going to get up and start telling funny stories. And my husband's like, what do you mean you're going to do comedy? You don't even know how to write comedy. I'm like, I'll figure it out. So, that's what I totally agree with you. You just sometimes have an idea and you just kind of jump and you try it. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But then at least you can say, check that off, tried it. You know what I mean? It's better to try and not have it go well than to always be like, I wish I had tried that, so I totally agree with you.
Yeah, look, I've embarrassed myself way more times than I have probably gotten an awesome applause, I've done some things that I look back on that I'm so glad wasn't the cell phone era, because I know I've always been that guy, just try, fly, whatever. If let me just
something crazy or saying something. Yes, I'm the same way. I'm so glad the internet or cell phone cameras weren't around in my 20s. Yes, I totally agree with you on that. Probably got videos of person be like,
yeah. For sure. I was just a crazy kid, some of those things I'm glad my mom didn't see, just off high stuff into shallow water and just whatever. I just thought life was carefree. It wasn't until I was 25 that the voice of reason was like, hey, you probably could die.
Yeah, exactly. It's so true. Sometimes it takes a little time to keep burning your hand on that hot stove. Well, Jason, I really enjoyed catching up with you and hearing everything that's going on. And continued success with the paella and, the family and all the content creation and all the different ideas that are coming up. And that if that show comes on, I want to know so I can follow it right away. Tell everybody where they can find you so they can follow you if they're not already.
Yeah, you can just Google the Cajun Ninja and most of my stuff will come up, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. You know, I'm out there. So yeah, and if anybody hasn't tried Paella Seasoning, you can get it through the CajunNinja.com. I am trying to get it in more stores. You know, for anyone who's watching who's out of state, believe me, I'm trying. I'm a little guy here in this kitchen over here. You know, like that's it. You know, this is all I am. You know, I'm not some big conglomerate warehouse with tons of inventory that I can ship all over. But I am trying.
If you get it locally off his website and you have connections to a big store in your community, then you can say, we need that paella.
Well, it will be for anybody local that is watching. It will be in every Rouse's come, probably next week. Which Rouse's is the big store down here. They're the biggest store in Louisiana. They have stores in Mississippi and Alabama, and it will be in every single Rouse's come the following week. But yeah, for now, you know, local people to Thibodaux, Houma, Canada's, and Ellen, and I even have it in an Asian market store down here. You know, that guy was reluctantly allowed me to have my seasoning in there. So
that's awesome. Well, that's so great, Jason. Well, I always enjoy talking with you. You're just a good energy, fun person, and you do a lot of great stuff. And I just like people to try things and, you know, stir things up and hey, just mix it up, chop it up, see what happens. You know, like life's too short to not try things. So thank you for coming on and joining us today. And everybody that tuned in today, I appreciate you listening to us. Please give Jason a follow. We will be back next Monday at 3 p.m. with Hernan Cias from the Business Bros podcast. And thanks for tuning in, and peace. We'll see you soon.
Hiya!
This episode of Chicken in a Bag is over. She's got to get back to being a mom, wife, bartender, therapist, comedian, you know, real life stuff. But you can catch more episodes of Kristen being Kristen on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe. Catch you next time.